Hello, and welcome to the 2021 IEEE Rising Stars Global Conference. My name is Phil Bautista, and my guest today is Tom Coughlin, President of Coughlin and Associates. He is one of the featured speakers of the conference here today. Welcome, Tom.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Phil, and thank you for inviting me to join you.
Absolutely, we're delighted to have you. Your session today is entitled Hardware and Software for Data Centers. Very relevant in today's world of cloud-centric computing. Can you tell me what roles digital storage and memory play in today's cloud environment?
Sure, I'd be glad to. Digital storage is where all the digital data captured and processed lives, and memory technologies are where the data that's in process is being stored. With the explosion of data being created due to the Internet of Things, 5G and wireless networks, as well as AI applications, the demand for digital storage and memory of many types is exploding. This includes data stored in large data centers, for instance, the cloud, as well as at the edge and in industrial and consumer endpoint devices.
Wow. Well, so what are some of the most significant developments in digital storage and memory today?
There are many important developments underway in the digital storage and memory industry. Solid-state storage in the form of NAND flash-based solid-state drives, or SSDs, is now used as primary storage in data centers and in many client devices, for example, personal computers. They are also used as storage media in the latest generation of game consoles. Hard disk drives and tape are serving for colder secondary storage or for data archiving. SSDs using the NVMe interface are being used in most new storage systems. NVMe runs on the physical PCIe bus and is capable of much greater performance than the SATA and SAS interfaces developed originally for hard disk drives. With the growth of NVMe and NVMe networking, called NVMe over fabrics, and the fabrics include things such as Fiber Channel, which is a storage area network, traditional network, but also includes things like Ethernet. New compute and storage architectures are possible. That enables things such as disaggregation of server functions such as compute, memory, and storage. It also enables things such as computational storage, and with the new CXL and Gen Z connectivity in future compute and storage systems, even more disaggregation, and at-will composable data center and infrastructures will be possible. There is even talk about making hard disk drives and perhaps tape drives having native NVMe fabric interfaces to create a unified storage control and management capability. Another item is emerging non-volatile memories, which are starting to replace volatile memories. An example of that is Intel's Optane, which is a phase change memory known as 3D XPoint. And it's often used for complementing DRAM. It has speed somewhat less than DRAM, but it has pretty high endurance, so somewhere between DRAM and NAND flash in terms of its capabilities, but it's used to complement DRAM. Also, new memory technologies such as MRAM and resistive RAM, or that's magnetic random access memory or resistive random access memory, are starting to displace NOR flash and SRAM in embedded devices, especially for battery-powered Internet of Things devices running AI inference engines. Also, ferroelectric RAM may also become an important new non-volatile memory technology. Non-volatile memories are starting to displace SRAM for higher level cache memory, and they could eventually replace memory registers as well, essentially making all memory non-volatile.
Well, and I will tell you that this laptop that I'm using, I've got an SSD on it, and it boots up really quickly.
Yep.
Some of the VMs that one of my customers used to deliver their ERP platforms, they replaced all the physical drives with solid state drives, and their performance is phenomenal. I don't think we ever thought we'd have that level of performance, with physical computing, right? So that's fascinating. So tell me, how did you get started in this industry, Tom?
So I originally started out with a bachelor's degree in physics, and after I got that from the University of Minnesota, I worked for a year at the Honeywell Research and Development Center near Minneapolis, Minnesota. While there, I was doing work with magnetic thin films and needed to do some magnetic characterization. Then some of those tools were at the University of Minnesota. So I went to the University of Minnesota to make those measurements, and it was in a lab that was run by a guy named Dr. Jack Judy. He was a professor in electrical engineering working on magnetic recording technology. I liked Jack, and he had interesting people that came and visited his lab. There was a fellow named Shunichi Iwasaki, who, for instance, from Japan, Tohoku University in Japan, who was starting work on cobalt chromium-based thin films with perpendicular magnetic anisotropy. I thought that was a cool topic, so I actually wrote a thesis in my graduate work with Jack and a material science professor named Jack Sievertson. So they were the two Jacks. It was involving these cobalt chromium alloy, perpendicular magnetic anisotropy thin films for perpendicular magnetic recording. So I graduated with an MS in electrical engineering from the university, and I went to work on this technology at 3M. And over the course of several years, I did magnetic recording work in Minnesota, Boston, actually for a Polaroid Corporation, and then came out to California, starting with Seagate Technology. And I'm still out in California today. So after working for a couple of decades as an engineering manager, and executive at firms involved in various parts of the magnetic recording industry, I set out to start my own company in 2000. Coughlin Associates Incorporated has been involved in running digital storage and memory, and also including their applications in well-attended conferences. And these include the Storage Visions Conference, which is for many years a partner event of the CES, and also was part of the history of starting the Rising Stars Conference, was having this Storage Visions Conference, and also included the Creative Storage Conference, which focused on digital storage and its use in the professional media and entertainment industry. I was also general chair of the Flash Memory Summit for 10 years. I have also been involved in various IEEE, SNIA, IDEMA, and SMPTE, Society of Motion Picture and Television Engineer, events over the years. I'm currently working on an online event and education channel, which is focused on digital storage and applications that should launch sometime in 2021. In addition to the conferences and events, I also publish reports, extensive reports, and comprehensive reports on digital storage and memory and their applications. Current reports include my annual report on digital storage and media and entertainment, as well as an annual report on emerging non-volatile memory technologies. I also publish a quarterly newsletter on digital storage and memory and their applications. In 2008, I published the first edition of my book, Digital Storage and Consumer Electronics, The Essential Guide, with the division of Elsevier. In 2018, the second edition of this book was published by Springer. I've also done many different technical and industry consulting activities over the last 20 years, including technical projects, factory improvements, due diligence for investors. I've been an advisor for startup companies. I've written white papers and reports on various topics, also given talks at webinars and conferences, various presentations, and I also have done some expert witness work in this industry.
Well, in fact, Mike Andrews was telling us earlier in the history of the Rising Stars, he mentioned you and the storage conference that you had, and I've got the name wrong here, as precursors to the Rising Stars, and the role that you had in co-founding the Rising Stars. What an amazing legacy. So you've obviously authored books, reports, and spoken at many conferences. So tell me what impact your book and these reports have had in your presentations at conferences on the digital storage industry today.
Sure. And furthermore, it's kind of interesting, it's sort of like life is what happens to you when you're making other plans. When you start off, it's something just kind of lesson for folks. You start off thinking you're going to do one thing. Oftentimes you end up doing other things in the course of life. It just kind of happens. So again, I've got involved in conferences, and they've been some of the best attended and quoted storage and memory events over the years. And they brought together major contributors in the storage and memory industries, as well as their consumers, often as speakers, as exhibitors, and keynote speakers and folks in the sessions. In fact, one time I've had Steve Wozniak there a few times at some of my events. He was actually working in a storage company at the time. And then Buzz Aldrin.
You had Woz?
Yeah, and Buzz Aldrin was there one time.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
Yes. Yeah. There's stories behind all of these things, but which over a beer, homemade beer, hopefully, could talk about sometime. My book has sold many copies and often been referenced. And in November this year, Springer sent me a notice that my book is among the top 10 used publications on Springer Link that concerns one or more of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. That was pretty cool. And my reports have also been used by many companies in the industry for their market and analysis efforts. My consulting projects have helped with product development and launch, factory process improvements, merger and acquisition activities, startup funding, as well as marketing and sales efforts in this industry.
Wow, what a storied career. So tell me, how did you get involved in the IEEE, and what are some of the roles that you've had within the organization?
Oh, sure. So IEEE is another, I started IEEE. I've been, as of now, 42 years a member. I started out as a student member when I was in grad school at the University of Minnesota. And I did a little bit of stuff in Boston with the Magnetic Society chapter, in Minnesota with the Magnetic Society chapter there, a little bit with Boston, but it was really when I moved out to California that I got more involved with the IEEE. It started, at least at the section level. I was in Santa Clara Valley section. I was chair of several chapters, the magnetics, as well as consumer technology or consumer electronics chapter at the time. I was also chair of the section, and I was chair at the same time of the San Francisco Bay Area Council while I was serving as the Santa Clara Valley section chair, which is the largest section in the world. While I was there, I championed having the IEEE Sections Congress in San Francisco in 2011. So that decision was made to do it in San Francisco, and I became the general chair of this IEEE Sections Congress. I also served on the 2014 and 2020 Section Congress committees. After that, I did some stuff with Region 6. I was the Central Area Chair for a while, which included Santa Clara Valley, Oakland East Bay, and San Francisco. Also included Sacramento and Hawaii too. So it's kind of a wide, wet area. I became then Region 6 director sometime after that. I helped Mike Andrews again help get the Rising Stars Conference going as a companion event to the Storage Visions Conference. I had a venue, and so I could help them get a venue. The Rising Stars was initially held just before Storage Visions in the same or an adjacent location in Las Vegas. And then I held joint region OPCOM meetings with Region 4 and participation in many other regions while I was director. I led an effort to record and post technical chapter meetings to a local event IEEE TV channel, which is still there and which is being used. I also led an effort to help senior executives who are IEEE members to become senior members of the IEEE as a way to expand our connections to industry. They included, for instance, the former CEO of Google Alphabet, who was a member but not a senior member, right? So I thought this was a great way to do outreach and try to pull people personally into working with us. I was also on the IEEE Board of Directors and served on several IEEE committees, including Industry Engagement, Public Visibility, and the New Initiatives Committee. As IEEE USA President, I used the IEEE Foundation to help fund commemorative events of the Apollo level landing on the moon in 2019. I also got funding to support creation of videos of IEEE young professionals in conjunction with the IEEE Computer Society and Power and Engineering Society for IEEE USA and for IEEE membership campaign videos. And in fact, I think some of them are probably going to be shown during the Rising Stars Conference. These are currently being used in the IEEE as my competitive edge messaging and are being aired on TV stations in various metro areas and IEEE events. In IEEE technical activities and standards, I was a vice president in the Consumer Technology Society and served on the IEEE tab Future Directions Committee. I'm a VP of standards for the Consumer Technology Society. I've been involved over the years with several future direction activities, and I chaired a future directions committee in the Consumer Technology Society. I've authored and contributed to various reports for IEEE industry engagement and future directions, and I've given many talks at IEEE events on various topics several times a year, including at this Rising Stars Conference.
Well, as a matter of fact, I hear that you're petitioning to get on the ballot to run for IEEE President-elect in 2021. We've got about 10 seconds here. I'm going to put links to your petition and the document below. But give us your 15-second pitch on your IEEE President-elect bid here to get on the ballot?
Well, you can find out more about me in general at tomcoughlin.com, and I have an IEEE page there. It talks a bit more about what I've done and also has a link to that petition. But the petition itself, where you can see my and other petitions to run for this office, are at www.ieee.org/petition.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Tom. I appreciate your time today. Looking forward to your session.
Thank you very much, Phil. It's a pleasure to be able to talk to you